On to our other big story of the day. Israeli Defense Minister Benny Gantz is currently in the Indian capital New Delhi to strengthen the security ties between the two nations. He is as of now meeting with India's Prime Minister Narendra Modi. Let's set the stage for you now. Gantz has already met his Indian counterpart, that is India's Defense Minister Rajnath Singh. The two leaders signed a document aimed at deepening security relations. India's Defense Minister said that the meeting with the Israeli counterpart was productive and issues pertaining to defense cooperation, global and regional scenarios were also discussed. Gantz's visit marks 30 years of diplomatic and defense ties between Israel and India. The Israeli Defense Minister is accompanied by the country's Chief of Staff, Mayan Azraeli, the Head of Directorate for International Defense Cooperation, Brigadier General Yair Kulas, the Director of Policy and Political Military Bureau, Dror Shalom, and Military Secretary B.G. Yaki Dolf. The Israeli Defense Minister was scheduled to visit New Delhi in March this year. However, his visit was postponed after he contracted coronavirus, and in the backdrop of terror attacks in Israel that left dozens dead. Gantz's visit comes amid celebrations marking 30 years of establishing diplomatic ties between both the nations. India and Israel established full diplomatic relations on the 29th of January in 1992. Earlier this year, a commemorative logo was launched to mark 3 decades of ties. In February, iconic buildings in India and Israel, including the Gateway of India in Mumbai and the Masada Fortress in Israel, were lit up in Indian and Israeli colors. And for more insights on this crucial visit, our principal diplomatic correspondent Siddhant Sibal gets us up to date with what's happening in the Indian capital, New Delhi. Take a look.
The Israeli Defense Minister is on an India visit and held talks with his Indian counterpart, the Indian Defense Minister Rajnath Singh. 2 key focus areas, one of course on research and development when it comes to future technologies, another on co-production, defense co-production. There was a joint vision statement that was also adopted. Both governments are looking for partnership in training in drones. These are the areas, and we can see more practical implementation of the joint vision in few months and years. But largely this visit is coming at an important juncture when both India and Israel are celebrating 30 years of establishment of diplomatic and defense ties. It was in the year 1992 that both countries established formal relationship, and this year we'll see a lot of engagements. The Israeli Prime Minister was expected to visit India earlier this year, but that could not happen because of he got COVID, and that is why that visit had to be postponed. So we can see perhaps some materialization of that visit in near future. But largely, if you look at India and Israel defense partnership, it has been growing. Last year we saw the then Indian the Army Chief and Air Chief visiting Israel, the Indian Air Force participating in Israeli air exercises, the Indian Navy ships visiting Israeli ports. So this has emerged as an important pillar of relationship between India and Israel, and that is why today's visit, the meeting with the Defense Minister and the call on with the Indian Prime Minister is very important. Remember, when it comes to his meeting with the Indian Prime Minister, that's very significant because it's very rare that a visiting Defense Minister calls on the Indian Prime Minister. So all in all, it was a packed day here in Delhi, and whether it's defense or agriculture, there are several areas of cooperation now emerging between India and Israel. With video journalist Ajit Siddhant Sibal for WION in New Delhi.
WION World is now available in your country. Download the app now and get all the news updates on the move.